Picture the world wrapped in stone and dread, where walls were not just barriers but cages, locking in both life and despair. Medieval sieges were chess games played with bones and blood. Larders slowly emptying, no whisper of rescue. Time itself an executioner's blade. Disease bred in damp shadows, and betrayal festered like an open wound. Whole cities reduced to waiting tombs. Imagine the scent of burning flesh mingling with the acrid tang of fear, as cunning and cruelty blurred the line between sanity and madness. These are tales of extraordinary sieges, where survival demanded more than courage. It required a touch of lunacy. Journey back with me to an age where the clink of metal rang through castle courtyards, and the sword was far more than a mere tool of war. It was an emblem of power, honour, and life itself, etched into the very soul of the medieval world. The sword held a mystic aura, standing as a witness to tales of valour and the timeless dance between life and death. Knights bore these blades not just as weapons, but as badges of distinction, each sword a symbol of legacy, often passed down through generations, carrying with it the whispered echoes of battles fought and won. The arming sword, with its double-edged blade, emerged as the iconic symbol of a knight's duty, versatile and elegant, ready for both brutal warfare and ceremonious duels. Its counterpart, the longsword, with its extended reach and adaptability, required both skill and strength, flourishing particularly when slashing through the gaps in armour. Then there was the falchion, less refined yet deadly, crafted for those who lack noble heritage but not fighting spirit. Each sword spoke volumes about its owner's place in society, resonating with the era's social and political undercurrents. Whether elegantly crafted by a master smith or hastily forged for a mercenary, each blade had a story embedded in its steel. The medieval enchantment surrounding swords was deeply tied to a series of profound, often mystical rituals. Naming a sword was like breathing life into metal, a moment where mere steel was granted purpose and spirit. These newly christened swords were often sanctified by clergy, blessed with sacred intent to serve as divine allies in times of peril. In an age steeped in superstition, such ceremonies blended martial duty with spiritual devotion, making swords more than just tools. They transformed into talismans of fate and fortune, believed to hold powers that could tip the scales of battle. The craft of sword making itself was nothing short of alchemy. Blacksmiths, the uncelebrated artisans of the battlefield, honed their skills to an art form, folding metal countless times to forge blades that could withstand the rigours of combat. Swordsmiths were revered, part magicians who knew the secrets of fire and metal, turning raw elements into legendary weapons. The sweat and sparks of their forges laid the foundations for knights' legacies, securing their status with every hammer strike that resonated through the ages. However, a sword was only as formidable as the hand that wielded it. Young knights began their training as pages in the formidable arts of swordsmanship, their journey gilded with the clangour of practiced blades and the rigorous exchange of skills and sweat. Training was as much about strategy and intellect as it was about muscle and endurance. Such preparation honed their instincts and sharpened their resolve, allowing them to face the chaos of battle with the dexterity and grace demanded by their solemn oaths. Knighthood ceremonies, too, enshrined the sword as a central figure. In these solemn rites, aspirants knelt before lords and sovereigns to receive their sword with oaths of loyalty and bravery. This moment was both their ascension to power and a binding commitment to uphold the virtues of chivalry, the sword serving as an eternal reminder of their duty to their realm. Here, swords transitioned from mere chunks of metal to embodiments of knightly ideals, illustrating the power of symbolism to inspire and compel. Even in the mystical realm of legends, swords captured imaginations as tales of enchanted blades pointed the way through tales of magic and destiny. Stories like that of Excalibur infused swords with a supernatural significance, portraying them as objects possessing life beyond mere metal, a notion resonating through the dreams and fears of medieval society. These mythic narratives, echoing the hopes and tribulations of commoners and nobles alike, demonstrated how swords straddled the line between reality and legend, becoming conduits of chivalric aspiration and eternal struggle. Swords, paradoxically revered as tools of peace as much as instruments of war, underscored the complexity of medieval life. They maintained order amid chaos, their very presence a deterrent to unrest, yet they quickly became tools of tyranny in the wrong hands. This dichotomy illustrated the tenuous balance within the souls of medieval society, where blades could both uphold justice and rain down oppression. Such contradictions are not unfamiliar today, as these ancient ideals linger within the ceremonial availability of modern arms, a gentle reminder of history's cyclical nature. The sword's narrative transcends its sharp edge. It has carved a place in history as an emblem of the human condition, unravelling the stories of perseverance and valour that define us. Even as the clang of sword fights fades into digital echoes, the allure persists, eternally casting its shadow over modern imaginations. The steel's cool touch still reverberates through time, telling tales of a world long vanished yet eerily present in every cut, clash and caress of metal. Axes, timeless instruments born from necessity, became the common man's weapon of choice amid the medieval chaos. Imagine the battlefield, a cacophony of clashing metal, desperate cries, and the sickening thud of axes hitting flesh. While swords were luxuries reserved for the noble class, axes were accessible, turning the ordinary labourer's tool into a lethal equaliser against armoured knights. These weapons did more than just cut. They shattered shields, split mail, and reduced the battlefield's social hierarchy to an arena of sheer survival. Originally crafted for mundane trades, axes evolved with wartime needs, sprouting from simple tools into fearsome marvels like the bearded axe, designed to not only slash but also hook and disarm. As armour grew thicker and more cumbersome, axes met the challenge head-on. Designs became more specialised, with blades honed to pierce and chop through plated defences. The Danish axe epitomised this transformation, its longer handle and broader head offering unparalleled leverage and force, making it the weapon of choice for Huscarls during significant battles like Hastings. In this tale of blunt force, maces enter as mighty heralds. Rooted in ancient stone clubs, medieval maces transcended their primitive origins, their metal heads crafted to crush rather than cut. The chilling crunch of a mace-shattering bone was a sound that turned the stomach and crushed morale. As armour deflected arrows and sword strikes, maces struck with brute indifference to such defences, turning intricate armour into little more than paper against the right force. The mace was no longer just a peasant's weapon. It was a favoured tool of knights and soldiers alike, bridging the social divide one bone-crushing blow at a time. Flanged and spiked maces took this lethality a step further, their designs focusing force onto smaller points, crushing armour and the flesh beneath it. This weapon rendered elaborate defences nearly pointless. The mace's both democratic and devastating nature made it a staple across battlefields, a versatile symbol of power and justice that transcended its role in war to become a ceremonial emblem of authority in law courts. The warhammer stands as a fine art of destruction, a marriage of power and precision. A weapon favoured by discerning warriors, the warhammer delivered its force with pinpoint accuracy, its spiked or beak-like head piercing through the toughest armour at vulnerable points. Such precision required tactical expertise, marking it as the choice of both seasoned generals and battle-hardened foot soldiers. Here was a weapon that turned skill and power into an unrivalled art form on the medieval battlefield. Medieval warfare was as much a psychological as a physical confrontation. The presence of maces and warhammers among soldiers represented a theatre of dread. Facing such brutal instruments, knights clad in ornate armour faced the unsettling truth that all their protection might offer no salvation. The psychological terror induced by blunt weapons was palpable, their threat demoralising entire armies long before the fatal strike. Beyond their sheer practicality, these weapons carried cultural significance, becoming icons woven into the tapestry of medieval life and lore. The Norse god Thor's mighty hammer, Mjolnir, resonates through time as a symbol of strength and courage. Similarly, maces and axes in tapestries and manuscripts depicted acts of heroism and conquest. These weapons were enshrined in martial folklore, their legends fueling tales of valour in both battlefield and court. Training to wield these implements required dedication to mastering the principles of momentum and leverage. Warriors honed control as much as raw power, an education transcending brute force and closing entirely new chapters of tactical warfare. Historical battles record incredible victories where these tools decisively turned the tide, such as during the Hussite Wars, where peasant forces overcame armoured knights using sheer strategy and adaptability. The line between nobility and peasantry was often blurred in the heat of battle. An ornate mace wielded by a noble knight could very well meet its match in a peasant's simpler, handmade axe. The battlefield became a rare space where societal hierarchies temporarily dissolved, with ideals of valour and outcome hinging on courage and tenacity rather than noble lineage. The legacy of these medieval blunt weapons speaks to a brutal yet profoundly democratic form of combat. They remind us of an era where survival dictated ingenuity and practicality often trumped elegance. Examining these artifacts, we uncover a society etched by conflict and pragmatism. They compel us to reflect on human innovation, capturing the essence of medieval life, a world where life and death dance to the rhythm of axe, mace and hammer, revealing an enduring saga of resilience and adaptability. In an age dominated by steel and chivalric splendour, the longbow emerged as an unassuming disruptor. Crafted from yew or elm, it was a simple tool that handed unparalleled power to English peasants, individuals far removed from the noble legacy of knights. Standing over 6 feet tall, this formidable weapon brought a lethal precision to the battlefield, as its arrows could pierce armour from distances exceeding 200 yards. Victory, as it turned out, was no longer an inheritance pure and simple. It was a skill, honed and deadly, levelling the field between highborn and commoner alike. Remarkably, the longbow turned peasants into formidable soldiers, much to the chagrin of those who had long dominated the art of war through bloodlines. This revolution in combat was nowhere more evident than at Agincourt in 1415. Facing overwhelming odds, King Henry V's troops relied on a phalanx of archers to outmaneuver and outlast a superior French force. The French knights were ensnared by their cumbersome armour and the treacherous mud of the battlefield, where the English longbowmen unleashed volleys in relentless rhythm, toppling opponents from their horses and sealing a historic victory. Mastering the longbow, however, was no small feat. English laws mandated training, reflecting the bow's central role in national defence. Beginning as young as 7, boys were initiated with smaller versions of the weapon, cultivating strength and skill. Archery became part of the cultural tapestry, immortalised in folklore and celebrated in competitions. The power of the bow demanded not just physical prowess, but an intuitive grasp of wind and distance. For these archers, archery was more than martial duty. It was an identity, brewed into their very being. But a bow was only as mighty as its arrows. The Fletcher's relentless pursuit of precision mirrored the life and death importance of every shaft. Crafted with barbed tips for armour and broadheads for unprotected foes, arrows epitomised versatility. Their creation was an art form, ensuring that, on the eve of battle, each archer wielded weapons meticulously prepared to fly true and strike decisively. These arrows emerged as ominous symbols, silent yet powerful messengers across muddy fields and open skies. In parallel, humanity's psyche was forever marked by the unseen terror of archery. The faceless, distant threat wielded unparalleled power, echoing across medieval battlefields as an ever-present fear. Arrows rained down, a whirlwind of wood that shattered armour, and, more profoundly, the nerves of those who found themselves exposed. As reflections of this shadowy dread, longbowmen encapsulated a war stratagem that reshaped the martial mindset from valorous hand-to-hand to the distant lethality of an impersonal onslaught. Yet, even as its influence waned in the face of advancing technology, the longbow endured as a cultural touchstone, leaving an indelible mark on societal structures and medieval sensibilities. It symbolised an egalitarian shift. Power was weathered hands and muscle memory, a peasant's defiance against the knight's privilege. The bow's legacy transcended its battlefield utility, sparking social change in its wake. Archery contests filled public squares, accompanied by accolades for the victors, former serfs now champions of their communities. Its simplicity masked an intricate promise. Valour lay not in noble birth, but in the disciplined perseverance of humble hands. As crossbows and early firearms began to overshadow its reputation, the longbow lingered as a symbol of resilience and cultural significance. The nuanced craftsmanship of bows varied across the societal tier, with nobles commissioning opulent, customised bows, their quality a reflection of prestige, not necessity. This stratification highlighted the bow's dual role within a medieval tapestry, serving both a pragmatic military purpose and a ceremonial competitive one. While the English longbow became synonymous with the tumultuous symphony of medieval warfare, diverse cultures worldwide left their own imprint on the development of archery. The Mongols and other Asian civilizations favoured the composite bow, an engineering marvel that unified wood, horn and sinew into a flexible yet powerful weapon fit for mounted warriors. Across oceans, indigenous North American tribes crafted their bows through local ingenuity and resources, marrying functionality with cultural virtue, a testimony of human ingenuity's universal call and response. It is this enduring enchantment that defies the bow's military obsolescence, the draw of the bowstring echoing with humanity's oldest challenges: food, survival, and pathfinding. The bow invited awe not solely for effectiveness, but for its primal simplicity, old worlds resurrected in its arc. History interweaves hem and haw alongside the twang of the bowstring, beckoning echoes to birth and burial alike, where arrows marked not only targets, but the evolution of the human condition into mechanisms of tool and glory. Archery, more than a vestige, more a lengthy deliberation, a narrative embedded in the sinew bond between a person and ancient endeavour, shaping destinies yet unseen but forever whispered by history's evocative string. In the theatre of medieval warfare, the crossbow emerged as a game changer, its design reshaping the dynamics of battle. Unlike the traditional bows that demanded years of training and skill, this mechanical marvel was accessible and devastating. Its charm lay in its ability to hold tension on the string, allowing the shooter to aim calmly without exerting strength. A formidable tool that pierced even the strongest armour, unsettling the aristocracy. Here was a weapon that democratised war, stripping away the valour and skill tied to archery and infusing fear into the hearts of knights. The Church, recognising its potential to disrupt societal hierarchies, banned its use against Christians at the Second Lateran Council in 1139. Yet, the crossbow continued to deliver a shockwave through the tactics of war, shaking the very foundations of the medieval battlefield. With minimal training, even a peasant could threaten the life of a noble knight, levelling combat and challenging the entrenched martial hierarchy. The crossbow's mechanics told their own tale of dread. Smaller than a longbow yet capable of storing more energy, its release was heralded by a distinctive twang, followed by a bolt effortlessly cutting through chainmail. This design afforded soldiers the luxury of precision, transforming the battlefield into a place of unseen fear, where death could strike from any quarter. A charged crossbow struck a balance between power and patience, allowing smaller forces to resist larger armies with precision and lethality. Its role in siege warfare fortified its significance. With its power to dispatch bolts over fortifications, it became indispensable in both attack and defence. As defenders, crossbowmen held fast, slowing down attackers with unmatched attrition, while on the offensive, they disrupted and disoriented with relentless precision. But the crossbow was not just a weapon, it was a symbol of evolving warfare. Despite its nickname as the weapon of cowards, crossbowmen honed their skills with discipline and patience, understanding the value of timing in combat. They inhabited an ambiguous space within medieval society, a point of contention in religious and philosophical texts, yet respected for their prowess and battlefield contribution. Chronicles from the likes of Froissart detail how these troops used their positions strategically, turning skirmishes into tactical duels. Beyond the front lines, the crossbow assumed roles in hunting and urban policing. It simplified hunting, offering those unable to wield the longbow a chance to partake in a vital aspect of medieval life. Yet, within this democratization, hunting rights continued to reflect status and privilege. In urban settings, crossbows were wielded by city constabularies, adding a layer of deterrence to the maintenance of order, quelling unrest with quiet power. Culturally, the crossbow imprinted itself upon the medieval psyche, threading through narratives of rebellion, resistance, and strength. Legends like Robin Hood etched its image into collective memory, where outlaws wielded them in defiance against unjust authority. In art and iconography, the crossbow featured prominently, capturing the paradox of admiration and ban, appearing in cathedral carvings as both warning and testament to its significance. As the centuries turned, the crossbow evolved, adapting through innovations in materials such as steel, which bolstered draw strength and endurance. Multi-shot crossbows and repeating mechanisms surfaced, offering glimpses into the relentless spirit of medieval ingenuity driven by necessity. Yet amid the debates between crossbows and longbows, each weapon underscored a broader narrative of technology versus skill. While the longbow demanded craftsmanship and swift deployment in open battle, the crossbow provided potent precision, suiting the tight scenarios of siege warfare. These distinctions played out in strategic dialogues across Europe, reflecting both military pragmatism and shifting societal attitudes about warfare, power, and class. The twilight of the crossbow came with the rise of gunpowder, a new era that gradually eclipsed the silent deadliness with the roar of cannon and musket fire. Even as the crossbow's dominant days waned, its legacy lingered, subtly influencing firearm development and tactics for generations. Reflecting on the crossbow's legacy is to understand its profound mark on military traditions and social paradigms. It represented innovation and the friction between medieval ideals and the encroachments of change, where questions of ease, lethality, and power echoed through time. The crossbow stands as an emblem, not of cowardice but of transformation, challenging notions of valour and consequence, offering lessons about resilience and adaptability that resonate in any era. As the murmurs of its bolts reverberate through history, the crossbow narrates a timeless story, a testament to a brave new world where innovation bridged divides, altering the course of human history. In the medieval world, among the sounds of clashing steel and cries of battle, the spear stood as the steadfast choice for the common soldier. Accessible, affordable, and brutally effective, it required no noble title to wield. A basic wooden shaft capped with a sharp metal point. This unassuming weapon levelled the playing field, embodying the essence of egalitarianism on the battlefield. While knights paraded with their intricate swords, the spear thrived in simplicity, proving its worth time and again. A soldier or even a mere peasant needed only the courage to thrust it forward, a straightforward motion, yet powerful enough to counter the might of charging cavalry. Through its basic form, countless variations arose, each adapting to the battlefield's needs, from sturdy spears held shoulder to shoulder by disciplined units, creating an unwavering phalanx, to pikes stretching 20 feet into the air. They formed an impenetrable wall. Soldiers braced for the terrifying thundering hooves of mounted knights understood that their humble spears were more than tools. They were lifelines. Echoes of disciplined training replaced panic with focus, helping soldiers hold formation despite the men's heightened senses and racing hearts. Together, they reshaped potential chaos into order. Formations that could withstand assaults from nobility and stand firm against the tide of countless enemies. As warfare evolved, so did the spear, transforming seamlessly into the formidable pike. This extended variant required a disciplined dance of movement and precise coordination, allowing infantrymen to hold off daring cavalry charges with a sea of sharpened points. The Swiss, masters of the pike square, showed its unmatched capacity to alter battles, their formations a deadly embrace of unity and strategy. Meanwhile, as the pike grew longer, Its use demanded soldiers respect its power and adaptability amidst chaos, fully aware that a single shift or gap could spell disaster. These pike formations put skill over brute force, proving that success hinged on the tight-knit coordination of steely-hearted troops over sheer numbers alone. Amidst these straightforward weapons, the halberd brought versatility and ingenuity to the chaos of medieval conflict. A hybrid of axe, spear, and hook, its multifunctionality enabled foot soldiers to face various threats with ingenuity. Whether slicing through armour, piercing an enemy in mid-charge, or dragging a knight from his steed, the halberd was a marvel of medieval creativity. While its sophistication required more training, the investment proved worthwhile as it granted armies more adaptability, giving rise to a new breed of soldiers, the halberdiers. Formations of the era carried power, not just through the weapons but through the unity they forged. Medieval commanders understood the strength lying in the hands of men ordered and aligned. Their synchronized movements a manifestation of sheer willpower and discipline. The tournament rank and file, with steadfast lines of bristling poles and pikes, invoked foreboding shadows against the ground. This spectacle left armies quaking as skirmishes sought to break them with javelins, slings, or timely ambushes, a testament to the psychological chess game waged beyond weapon impact alone. Beyond warfare's physicality, the era's polearms symbolised profound social dynamics. They represented not just implements of death, but also societal shifts in power and class distinction. Accessible to soldiers of humble origins, these weapons allowed lower classes to face the upper echelons in decisive engagements, challenging the entrenched norms of medieval hierarchy. Warfare's demand for pitched lines of steadfast infantry fostered respect for the common man, gradually tilting toward more organised states and standing armies. Yet standing against horrifying foes demanded more than brute force. It required iron-clad resolve. Veterans understood that all weapons waged psychological battles, and their formations often embodied this dread. Rows of spears advancing as one, accompanied by the methodical clatter of armour, wreaked fear in adversaries far ahead of a single strike. Despite their tactical prowess, spear formations were not impervious. Tactical adeptness was needed to counter enemy flanks or adjust to diverse terrain that thwarted their organisation. Armies learned to mix halberdiers with pikemen to counter such streaks. The battlefield became a dynamic stage, commanders perpetually honing and adapting their strategies to ever-shifting challenges. In the dance of warfare, landscapes influenced outcomes, and every strategic insight could spur unexpected shifts. In this ever-evolving landscape of tactics, notable battles echoed the pivotal role of spears, pikes and halberds. The Battle of Bannockburn saw Scottish forces succeed against cavalry through disciplined schiltrons, while Flemish foot soldiers triumphed at the Battle of Courtrai. Both conflicts demonstrated the profound impact of collective unity, wielded by a determined infantry, reshaping politics and power structures of the time. Even as gunpowder weapons signalled the decline of polearms in battlefields, their legacy threaded through ceremonial roles, cultural iconography, and national pride, bridging past conflicts to the present. They remain timeless relics in the chronicles of war and resilience, binding us to echoes of steadfast courage and shared confrontation that shaped history. In the shadowed annals of medieval warfare, siege warfare stands as a grim testament to human ingenuity and desperation. Not confined to the open fields, battles often raged against the daunting stone walls of fortified cities. Siege towers emerged as monstrous wooden giants, personifying military engineering at its zenith. These towers, colossal in stature, allowed armies to scale the loftiest walls, acting like bridges that carried warriors from the earth to the heart of besieged cities. As they moved forward, towering above their targets, they provided protection against a deadly rain of arrows and projectiles launched by defenders. The mere silhouette of a siege tower on the horizon was enough to sow dread in the hearts of those within the city, foretelling their doom. Crafted from timber and sometimes cloaked in hides drenched in water to ward off flames, siege towers harboured multiple levels of archers and soldiers, ready to storm the battlements. Witnessing a siege tower inch forward was akin to watching a tremendous beast awakened from slumber. The relentless advance, accompanied by the clang of shouted commands and the creak of wooden wheels, was a nightmare made manifest, illustrating the harrowing stakes of medieval warfare. The sheer intimidation and engineering prowess visible in siege towers found counters in the clever tactics of defenders who crafted barriers and devised traps, reaching for any advantage to stave off invasion. In contrast, the battering ram followed siege towers with a simpler, yet equally devastating intent. Born from ancient times, the battering ram was a thick beam of timber, often capped with iron, that relentlessly hammered gates and walls. These rams, suspended under protective coverings, resembled giant serpents coiled and ready to strike, their rhythmic pounding echoing ominously across the battlefield. For those defending, the repetitive sound and vibrations created a chilling backdrop to the drama of a siege. Beyond its raw, destructive power, wielding a battering ram required coordination and courage. Rams were the spearhead of an assault, drawing the focus of boiling oil, arrows and stones launched by desperate defenders. Operating a ram was perilous and grueling, a testament to the fortitude and resolve of the soldiers manning these formidable weapons. These warriors, often driven by promises of glory and loot, laboured tirelessly, shielded by mobile structures known as tortoises that protected them from the skyward onslaught. It was an exhausting war of attrition, where the singular aim was clear: breach the fortress, regardless of sacrifice. Beneath the battlefield, a quieter struggle unfolded. Undermining or sapping was a crafty art form, involving miners tunnelling beneath defensive walls to destabilise their foundations. These specialised troops, known as sappers, operated with stealth and precision, burrowing through earth and rock, their work concealed in dimly lit passageways far below the surface. Often, walls crumbled not through overt assault, but because of these hidden voids. The subterranean battleground held its own perils, as sappers faced not only the fear of discovery, but the counter-mining efforts of defenders. Clashes under the earth were battles of sound and silence, culminating in fiery detonations within tunnels that brought down walls in a dramatic collapse. Alongside these, fire emerged as a uniquely devastating tool in siege warfare, both sword and shield. When walls proved impervious to force alone, besiegers turned to flames, flaming arrows and pitch-soaked bundles, to sow fear and chaos. Smoke rising into the sky signalled destruction below, a grim marker of the besieged's helplessness against the slow grind of encroaching attackers. Defenders too employed fire, using burning oil or molten metal to repel those gathered at the gates. More than mere strategy, fire worked as a psychological weapon, with the horrifying spectacle of comrades consumed in flames sufficient to shake the resolve of sturdy fighters. In these sieges, flame entwined with human struggle. turning even the strongest wills to ashes. Sometimes siege towers and battering rams proved inadequate, and in those instances scaling ladders came into play. Simple in design but brutal in execution, they were symbols of desperate resolve. Soldiers scuttled up these ladders, exposed to deadly fire, risking all to gain a toehold atop ramparts, or perish trying. Each ascent was a perilous gamble, often resulting in mass casualties. Nonetheless, those who succeeded in breaching the defences found themselves poised for glory, or halted by defenders equally determined to repel intrusion. The relentless waves of humanity clambering up frail ladders encapsulated medieval warfare's nerve and tenacity, where courage and absurdity walked hand in hand. Time itself took on an ominous role in siege warfare, an unyielding monarch placing demands upon besiegers and defenders alike. For attackers, each day lengthened logistical struggles, strained supply lines, and eroded morale. Camped around a city under inhospitable conditions, soldiers faced disease, dwindling supplies, and sudden defensive sallies. Defenders, cloaked behind walls, lived under starvation's shadow, dreading each volley and cunning stratagem of the besiegers, their hope wearing thin. In this grim ballet, time dictated outcomes. Resources and endurance weighed heavily on the fickle balance of war, favouring patience and ceding to desperation. Class distinctions threaded through these endeavours as well. Nobles faced siege with privileges their common counterparts lacked, better quarters, and access to resources. However, they bore burdens too, expected to lead, negotiate, and even offer themselves as ransom. Common soldiers and citizens endured siege's brutality in a shared struggle for survival, often victim to the cruel calculations of war. Whether behind crumbling walls or attacking them, the gap between noble and layperson was starkly drawn, yet blurred by warfare's egalitarian destructiveness. Siege warfare scarred not only landscapes and cities, but etched itself into culture and history. Tales and legends grew, tales of heroic defences and cunning offences, immortalised in manuscripts and tapestries. Castles and cities adapted, evolving from lessons etched by these sieges. Even language bore influences, stories of resistance and surrender, resonating with future generations as reminders of endurance and folly. In the chaos of medieval sieges, destruction intertwined seamlessly with creation, leaving an indelible mark upon the world. If this glimpse into the siegecraft of the Middle Ages piqued your interest, or unsettled your spirit, consider leaving a like. For more shadowed whispers from history's past, subscribe to Medieval Grime. We serve tales aged and unfiltered. Thanks for joining us. Stay grimy, and until next time, may the fireside unveil its secrets anew. In the shadowy depths of medieval warfare, there emerged a grand invention that was both a marvel of engineering and a harbinger of doom. The trebuchet, crafted meticulously from sturdy timbers and interwoven with thick ropes, this towering siege engine embodied the era's relentless quest for power and precision. Standing amid the chaos of battlefields like a looming titan, the trebuchet relied on simple principles of counterweight and leverage. Unlike its cousin, the catapult, which relied on tension, the trebuchet used gravity to catapult its payloads with terrifying accuracy. Creating one of these mechanical giants required not just carpentry skills and a keen understanding of physics, but also the collective effort of skilled artisans and labourers. Day by day, piece by piece, they assembled the siege machine, gathering immense quantities of wood and metal. buildings would shake in their foundations, while men would gather in awe of this colossal creation, anticipating the destruction it promised. Once ready, the trebuchet became a masterful expression of human ingenuity, its imposing arms swaying with a threatening grace as the operators fine-tuned every angle. The reputation of trebuchets went beyond their construction. It lay in the fearsome payloads they hurled. Stone was the preferred weapon, massive, unyielding, and capable of crushing defences with thunderous impacts. But when mere stones failed to breach enemy walls, a darker arsenal was deployed. At times, rotting carcasses or even plague-ridden corpses became weapons of choice, flung over walls to instill not just physical, but psychological torment among those besieged. This form of biological warfare turned the trebuchet into a symbol of medieval desperation and ingenuity as attackers sought victory through any means necessary. Building such a machine required unparalleled expertise and a collective sense of purpose. Craftsmen laboured tirelessly, felling vast forests and bending metals to their will. Blacksmiths forged essential components, while engineers fine-tuned every detail, ensuring the machine operated with deadly precision. This collaborative effort weaves a tale of unity and skill, with each person knowing their work could alter the fate of entire battles. From blueprint to battlefield, the trebuchet was a formidable force, its preparation a grand spectacle in its own right. Though the trebuchet reached its peak in medieval times, its roots took hold in ancient Greece. Here the Greeks laid theoretical groundwork with simple machines, from which the trebuchet evolved. This shared knowledge spans centuries, connecting ancient inventors to medieval engineers who transformed basic principles into masterpieces of war. The shift from friction-powered catapults to counterweight-driven trebuchets marked a revolution in siege warfare. One notable moment in history that saw the trebuchet's might was during the 1304 Siege of Stirling Castle under King Edward I of England. Here, the monstrous war-wolf laid waste to walls and morale alike, compelling surrender through sheer intimidation. The trebuchet's massive stones reduced walls to rubble, their power felt by all who witnessed the chaos. This clash became a testament to the synergy of military strategy and engineering, highlighting how the trebuchet's presence on the battlefield commanded both respect and fear. Deploying trebuchets during sieges was no small feat. Coordination was crucial, as each launch had to align with ground attacks to maximise impact. Communication between engineers, soldiers and commanders was a prudent dance of signals and strategy, echoing through chaotic battlegrounds. This level of coordination demonstrated that warfare was not just brute force, but a choreographed interplay of human intellect and mechanical might. With time, defenders grew wise to trebuchets, adapting their strategies to counter these hulking machines. Castle architects thickened walls and crafted fortifications capable of absorbing the massive impacts from trebuchet projectiles. Night raids and skilled archers posed additional threats to trebuchet operations, illustrating the tactical arms race these machines incited across the continent. The trebuchet's reach extended well beyond European borders, finding its place in Asian conflicts. Thriving on global warfare stages, they evolved, with cultures refining their designs to suit their needs. For instance, Mongol forces adapted them for mobility across empires, incorporating explosive gunpowder-filled projectiles. The cross-cultural utilization of these machines revealed universal themes of human innovation and the shared quest for mechanical mastery. As advancements in gunpowder weaponry swept across Europe, the age of the trebuchet slowly faded. Cannons and firearms heralded new tactics, yet the trebuchet's legacy endures as a symbol of medieval mechanization and martial innovation. Its story, etched in history, tells of an era when ingenuity and raw power blended seamlessly. The trebuchet is more than an artifact of war. It is a reflection of human perseverance in the face of formidable challenges, an enduring emblem of a world where the arc of a flying stone could decide the destiny of empires. In the medieval world, fire was a weapon of profound and primal fear, a force that both consumed and captivated. Flames were not merely destructive elements. They were instruments of terror that medieval armies wielded with chilling intent. Imagine being in a besieged castle, where the sky is blotted out by thick smoke, the air heavy with the crackling roar of encroaching flames. More than just a physical threat, fire cast a shadow over the human spirit, leaving both buildings and souls scarred and ravaged. Among the most feared fiery weapons was the infamous Greek fire, a Byzantine concoction shrouded in mystery, akin to ancient napalm. This incendiary liquid could ignite fiercely upon contact, turning ships into burning hulks and cities into funeral pyres. The secret of its composition was fiercely guarded, creating an aura of invincibility around Byzantine forces and leaving many attempted imitators frustrated. Tales of Greek fire spread swiftly through Europe, each story adding to its legendary status and demonstrating how psychological warfare often matched physical devastation. The thought of this infernal substance striking terror into the hearts of enemies showcased the power of both its physical and intangible flames. Medieval archers contributed their own brand of chaos through the use of flaming arrows. By igniting their tips with pitch or other flammable substances, they transformed a simple bow into a harbinger of fiery doom. Hundreds of these arrows could rain down upon an enemy, setting camps and siege engines ablaze, forcing an army into disarray. The spectacle of these fiery streaks across the sky was both magnificent and terrifying, with flames consuming thatched roofs, causing horses to bolt in terror, and turning soldiers into combatants against the very elements themselves. Flaming arrows were not just tools of war, they were symbols of the chaos and unpredictability that defined medieval conflict. Defenders too had their fiery arsenal, employing boiling oil to great effect. In the heat of a siege, with attackers scaling castle walls, the defenders would pour this scalding liquid over the edge, adding layers of excruciating agony to the physical and psychological toll of battle. Sometimes replaced with boiling pitch or even heated sand, this medieval tactic left an indelible mark on its victims, survival often coming with an unshakable reminder of the fiery barriers that separated life from death. Boiling oil and its counterparts were more than simple defences. They were visceral symbols of the unyielding resolve that marked those who stood their ground against insurmountable odds. Besieging armies sometimes resorted to hurling animal carcasses soaked in flammable liquids over fortress walls, a macabre twist on incendiary tactics. These flaming projectiles, often diseased or pestilent, served dual purposes: to ignite fires and to threaten the spread of illness. When these rotting bombs sailed over walls, they transformed environments into scenes of apocalyptic proportions, with carrion birds circling ominously, heralding the advent of a dreadful siege. This unholy marriage of fire and pestilence reflected how medieval warfare was not just about defeating enemies, but instilling hopelessness and fear by any means necessary. Smoke added an insidious layer to the chaos, veiling battlefields in confusion, thick and acrid, smoke-obscured vision, disorienting troops who suddenly found themselves choking and scattered, unable to distinguish friend from foe amidst a cloud of grey uncertainty. Military tacticians use smoke deliberately, knowing that the disarray it sowed could unravel even the most disciplined formations. Existence within the murky haze added a new dimension to fear, where unseen threats lurked and a soldier's footing seemed as uncertain as his fate. Pitch and tar became unsung heroes of medieval warfare, humble substances with potent capacities for destruction. Whether igniting arrows or creating fiery traps, these sticky compounds left enduring impressions. Soldiers feared encountering terrains riddled with pitch, knowing that even innocent-looking ground could become a smouldering quagmire. Beyond their battlefield application, pitch and tar symbolise the intersection of ingenuity and elemental power, where the simplest substances shape the raw brutality of warfare. Naval warfare embraced fire through the use of fire ships, vessels laden with combustibles and sent drifting into enemy fleets. Flames spread rapidly across these floating pyres, consuming sails and hulls with indiscriminate fury. The tactic was as clever as it was desperate, turning sea battles into scenes of blazing chaos where the waves themselves seemed to boil. Preparing a fire ship was an exercise in both meticulous strategy and audacious recklessness, binding the seas and flames in a deadly dance of destruction. Even the art of alchemy met warfare, as medieval minds pursued the perfect incendiary formula. Experimentation led to concoctions that remained alight in water, daring nature itself. These mixtures were less about science and more about embracing the tenuous edges of alchemical lore, a testament to human attempts to harness fire's terrible beauty. By walking this line, they conjured narratives of reckless genius, where the line between brilliance and calamity was often blurred. Fire's reach extended beyond the immediate burning impressions into human psyche, as deeply as it burned through timber and stone. The sight of entire villages or battlefields engulfed left stories of terror that transcended generations, forging a folklore of flame and despair. The searing truth that fire revealed was that vulnerability was an illusion, transforming battles into spectacles of both triumph and devastation. That eternal dance with fire became a reminder of the balance between survival and the inescapable, unyielding forces that defined medieval existence. In a world where life and death tangoed closely, medieval armour was the unsung hero, embodying both art and protection. Our tale begins with chainmail, a marvel from the Celts that endured through the Roman era, finding its way onto the bodies of early medieval warriors. Imagine countless metal rings meticulously interwoven, creating a flexible, shimmering fabric, a barrier against slashing blades, and a testament to the artisan's skill. The faint clink of metal, like distant rainfall, accompanied every move of a warrior clad in chainmail, marking him as both soldier and symbol. An intricate tapestry of interconnected loops that bore witness to battles fought and survived. Yet its glorious defence had a chink. Arrows and spears, piercing with deadly precision, revealed the vulnerabilities of such a suit, pushing the relentless march toward improved designs. As the clangour of battle echoed through the ages, the 13th century witnessed the dawn of a transformative era in armour. The ascent of crossbows and longbows heralded the need for greater protection, urging armourers to interlace iron plates within the web of chainmail. Thus, transitional armour emerged, its layers multiplying like secrets whispered across time, a precursor to the full plate armour that would define a century. Metallurgy, in its alchemical dance, unlocked new potentials. By the 14th century, armies shimmered with knights clad in full plate armour, an evolution as much about craft as survival. Each piece, a custom-made echo of its wearer, bore crests and symbols that told tales of lineage and loyalty. Walking fortresses they became, wrapped in metal skins that clanked and glistened under the flickering torchlight. Constructing such formidable suits was a craft rich in tradition and innovation. Breastplates gleamed with mirrored strength, greaves hugged calves like determined shadows, and gauntlets clicked with the promise of protection. These articulated masterpieces permitted a knight's fluidity on the battlefield, a veritable orchestra of metallic notes with every step. But with such might came burdens. The weight of history, quite literally, sat upon their shoulders. Every move a calculated affair, reminding them that prestige was a double-edged sword. To don the armour was to embrace a status that belied its confining embrace. Amid chivalric imagery, the knight in shining armour rode not just into battles, but into the burgeoning folklore of the Middle Ages. These knights, armed with ideals as formidable as their gear, symbolised courage and courtesy beneath the elaborate panoply. Songs of valour and tales of courtly love spun their narrative, gilding reality with the sheen of myth. Yet behind the myth was a stark truth. Maintaining such an armour, keeping it combat ready amidst the grime and gore, demanded perseverance, an enduring testament to the dichotomy between legend and life. In stark contrast to the noble knight stood the common soldier, his silhouette defined not by opulent plate, but by the simplicity of the gambeson, the humble quilt armour. Stiff yet yielding, it offered solace to those who couldn't afford the luxury of metal. Chainmail too remained a popular choice for many, a reliable companion, long after full plate armour adorned the elite ranks. For mercenaries and foot soldiers, these woven rings were the closest allies in a world tinted with the rough hues of conflict. The evolution of armour influenced and reshaped the dance of war. As suits grew heftier, battles became slow-motion ballets where strategy favoured defence, where formations moved like deliberate, deadly tides. Heavily armoured knights did not merely charge, but demanded new battlefield hierarchies, a negotiation between the traditional foot soldiers and the armoured cavalry's tangible might. This interplay sculpted an ever-shifting military mindscape, where the tension between old and new was palpable as the clash of swords. In parallel, the rise of crossbows and longbows echoed across the fields, challenging armourers to an arms race marked by reinforced plates and clever overlaps. Envisage battles where arrows rained down like judgment, each flight a potential breach, driving innovations in defence. The arms race between piercing projectiles and impervious armour was relentless, a testament to medieval ingenuity. As the sun set on the medieval age, firearms like thunderous harbingers showcased the armour's existential crisis. Gunpowder weapons with smoky sneers pierced through what once seemed indestructible, heralding a battlefield metamorphosis. The heavy armour gave way to lighter, agile forces, reflecting a new era's practical and economic sensibilities. Tradition, however resolute, bowed before innovation as knights' symbols of archaic grandeur hung up their suits. Tournaments, meanwhile, retained armour in a ceremonial vestige, celebrating skill and spectacle amidst pomp and pageantry. Tournament armour, often a spectacle itself, sparkled not only for combat, but as a mirror of social hierarchy and valour. In these arenas, knights jousted amidst cheers, their armour gleaming with pride as much as prowess. Even today, the legacy of medieval armour persists, enchanting our collective imagination through the silver screen and reenactments. The enduring image of the knight in armour resonates as a symbol of courage and chivalry, bridging the ancient with the modern. Modern body armour, echoing its medieval progenitors, stands testament to humanity's timeless quest to shield against harm while retaining the freedom to move forward, embracing both history and hope in its intricate weave. In the medieval world, warfare was not merely about battle, it was a reflection of the times and the people who lived them. Feudalism, power struggles, and fervent religious beliefs were mirrored on the battlefield, where knights charged under banners of duty, honour, and sometimes divine will. The sword carried a weight of chivalric ideals, while the blunt force of maces and axes spoke to the raw nature of hand-to-hand combat. Lords waged war for land and power, but also to assert dominance and protect their faith, shaping battles that echoed wider societal dynamics. For the common folk, drawn into conflicts by nobles' ambitions, the experience of war was a grim testament to the harsh realities of medieval life. Peasants thrust into the fray saw first-hand the ruin of war, their labours consumed by the gears of feudal ambition. Their lives, and the rustic tools they wielded alongside mighty siege engines, were markers of societal stratification, illustrating the stark chasm between privilege and duty. Chronicles reveal how these battles reshaped everything from landscapes to social hierarchies, marking eras of strife and transformation. Amidst this turmoil, the contest between innovation and tradition ignited a dance of progress across the battlefield. While the silhouettes of knights in gleaming armour never faded entirely, the whispers of gunpowder began to pierce the age's stillness. Yet the embrace of such innovation was cautious, for medieval minds revered tradition as much as they feared the unknown. Longbows and crossbows, wielded with precise human skill, coexisted with these newer, more unpredictable technologies, revealing a world grappling with change. Faith too played its part, driving men to war in a parallel of reverence and dread. Crusades embarked upon as divine missions saw warriors marching under the blazing sigils of righteousness, convinced of their heavenly mandate. Yet amid the clash, there lingered fear, the fear of damnation, of divine displeasure manifesting in the chaos of battle. The supernatural threaded through medieval belief, where enchanted weapons and relics seemed to hold sway over mortal affairs, ensnaring the imagination with the promise of divine intervention. The ethos of chivalry added a layer of complex honour to the bloody tapestry. Knights followed codes extolling virtues of loyalty and bravery, drawing firm lines of courtesy, even amid violence. Tournaments mirrored these chivalric ideals, arenas of ritual and skill that reinforced a knight's valour. Yet on the field, ideals often met the gritty demands of survival, where heroism played out against betrayal and brutality, contests not of lofty ideals but raw, innate valour. The true backbone of medieval armies lay in their common soldiers, conscripted from fields and workshops, wielding bows and spears alongside makeshift armaments. For these men, the battlefield was an equaliser, social distinctions blurred in the crucible of combat. Yet their stories, often overshadowed by those of nobility, speak of adaptability and resolve in ways that shaped campaigns and determined their outcomes. Women, though fewer in number, played crucial roles in these conflicts. Figures like Joan of Arc illumined the value of female agency amidst male-dominated clashes. From espionage to resisting sieges, women asserted their presence, revealing a tapestry richer and more varied than recorded history often suggests. These instances highlighted unexpected pliability within strict gender roles, as necessity redrew boundaries and revealed new paths for participation. The drawn-out sieges that characterized much of medieval warfare were relentless contests of endurance. Siegecraft demanded not only martial proficiency, but also the fortitude to withstand time's punishing tests. For those trapped behind walls, the spectre of starvation and despair loomed large, while commanders managed morale and supply lines, each maneuver steeped in patience and strategy. These struggles, exhaustive and harrowing, captured a microcosm of medieval resilience within their stone confines. Reputation lent currency to warriors' exploits, echoing throughout courts in tales of valour or cunning. The power of a famed name could tip battles before they began, a testament to the potency of legend and lore. Within this dynamic, mercenaries carved a niche, detached from feudal ties and driven purely by the coin. Their role underscored the pragmatic edges of war, where loyalty danced with opportunity in an intricate waltz of survival and ambition. Beyond the chaos of war lay the ruins of its making, shaping societies anew. Victories and defeats redrew boundaries, shifted political landscapes and reshaped economies. Survivors grappled with loss, rebuilding amid the uncertainties of shifting allegiances and the frail peace that followed. The echoes of these battles, merged into the fabric of history, offer a lens through which to view the ever-shifting dance of power, where the aftermath of war proved as challenging as the battle itself. These medieval echoes resound in the hallways of modern thought and military strategy, where ancient lessons find new life. From the chivalric influence on codes of honour to the strategic logistics that underpinned armies, the medieval battlefield offers a timeless narrative. Knights and epic quests inhabit our cultural consciousness, stirring stories that blend heroism with human frailty, whispering the lessons of an era where war was a reflection of its age, a complex evocation of humanity's enduring struggle with power, faith, and survival.